So where do we start? Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. What's this all about?
Well, have you ever been to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame?
Oh, no, I have not.
Wait, let me rewind this. So you used to live near Columbus, correct?
Yeah.
How long?
10 and a half years.
And isn't the Hall of Fame just like
It was just up the
shortly
road.
drive
Yeah,
short
it
up
was
the
2, 3 hour drive, depending on fast. Yeah.
and you've never been there.
Okay, I've got this to say about that. Huge fail.
Well,
So, but you went,
I
right?
yeah, we went, I forget what year it was, but they had a special John Lennon display, which since you've never been there, in the middle of the Hall of Fame, there's like multi-level that takes you up into the peak, I guess. And every level there was a whole different set of John Lennon related stuff. You had his piano that he wrote Imagine on. You had a lot of his guitars on one. You had a lot of his clothing, like the Sergeant Pepper's outfit. And then as you got to the very top, it was just a single room with glass cases all around the outside, and it was all of his handwritten lyrics. And I just got goosebumps just thinking about it. But being in that room and you see the actual napkin, I believe it was a napkin that he wrote the lyrics to Imagine on, how he came up with them. And it was just, it was like a religious experience for me. But yeah, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame was awesome. I mean, everything in there is just, you have one of Neil Peart's complete kits that you could just walk right up to. And
Is it Neil
uh,
Peart?
Peart,
Peart?
Peart, Peart. Don't
Okay.
make me say it a bunch of times and I'm gonna start getting it wrong.
All right. I'll try not to. Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Dude. Check this out. This is episode number 8. Today, we've got a shortened show. We're going to try to be a shortened show. We basically have one subject that we're going to cover, um, fairly detailed, fairly, I'll say emotional, but just educational. Some of it, when we did the research on the show, was very educational for both Dave and I. So before we get started, though, did I cover everything all right in the intro, Dave? I think I did, right? What we're talking about? Cool.
Yeah.
Before we get started, though, we'd be remiss if we didn't mention the passing of yet another phenomenal artist, rock drummer that everyone just like knows and loves, and that's Taylor Hawkins, who left us about 2 weeks ago. I forgot the date. Hold on, I've got the date here.
Yeah, it was close to a little over a week. Has it been?
Yeah, March 25th. He died on March 25th at the age of 50. Um, he started his career as the drummer for Alanis Morissette, and I'll put the link out here in the description for the show. There was a session he did. It was a master class, Taylor Hawkins master class, and he did it one of the studios, one of the BBC studios. And it was more of an interview than it was like a master class, but he was sitting behind a kit. And he explained the early days of being in the Foo Fighters and the relationship between Alanis and moving into that. He played some drums. He explained how he got into drums. It's a really, really good, if you don't know him very well, it's a really well done video that kind of opens up the world of Taylor Hawkins. So great drummer. He actually played on 8 of the Foo Fighters albums. It's not Dave Grohl. He put the sticks down and let Taylor do it after he got into the groove with the band. He had some stage fright early on playing for one of the greatest rock drummers in history. And so, but 8 albums in, he was amazing. So, rest in peace, Taylor. Dave, I don't know if you have any other words you wanted to say or memories about him and his time
Well,
on earth.
yeah, I mean, he was like you said, he was a phenomenal drummer. He was a great singer, all around musician. I mean, he a lot of times would take lead vocals for the Foo Fighters and let Dave jump behind the drums, or then he had his own side projects. He had a couple with heavy or Chevy Metal, and I forget what the other one.
Taylor
The name.
Hawkins and the Coattail Riders.
Coattail Riders, yes.
Yeah.
Yep. So yeah, it was a shock, and that was a tough one. So
Take care of each other, and I'll take care of me. And I will see you guys in Sao Paulo. I love, 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 love you guys. Sleep tight.
It kind of brings me to one of the reasons why we wanted to have this conversation today is actually Taylor Hawkins was fortunate enough to live long enough to see his band and participate in their induction into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And yeah, so that's coming up here shortly, the next series of inductees and the subject for today, which is the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. So that's going to be the main part of our conversation is just about that, who the nominees are this year, some of the things we discovered along the way, some controversy this year for some reason. And then at the end of this, Dave and I are actually going to vote on our nominees. I don't know if you get your screen ready, Dave, but I'll show mine while you're getting yours set up, but I'm ready to hit the vote button. So,
so
all right. So Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, like the history behind this is like, is Elvis in there?
yeah, I think he was part of the first group that went in. They so it was founded in 1983 by the chairman of Atlantic Records, and it was set in Cleveland because the WJW disc jockey Alan Freed had a show in Cleveland, and he coined the term rock and roll.
Fun times in Cleveland again. Still Cleveland. Come on down to Cleveland town, everyone. Under construction since 1868. See our river that catches on fire. It's so polluted that all our fish have AIDS. We see the sun almost 3 times a year. This guy has at least 2 DUIs. The flats look like a Scooby-Doo ghost town. Don't slow down in East Cleveland or you'll die. Our economy's based on LeBron James. Buy a house for the price of a VCR. Our main export is crippling depression. We're so that we think this is art. It could be worse though, at least we're not Detroit. We're not Detroit.
So how does one get nominated, and what do you get nominated for?
Let's see. There's a bunch of different categories. The one that everyone hears about is the performers category. And that's like vocal group, singers, bands, that type of thing. And then there's early influences category, lifetime achievement, musical excellence, which could be for like session players or someone who not necessarily in a group but heavily contributed to rock and roll. So,
And that's kind of like a interesting because it's called Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, but it's not all rock and roll.
yeah, that's it definitely isn't, because if you look back at the history, what makes up rock and roll? I mean, the blues and country and jazz, a lot of them mixed together is kind of what melded into rock and roll. So, you have a lot of the early musicians and bands that were pre-rock and roll that were major contributors to the genre. So,
Yeah, I took a look at this year's like nominees, and I was like, maybe start thinking about this. And we had a conversation about it as well. Like, well, is it just rock and roll? Like, where do you draw the line? And I think the controversy came to light because I think Dolly Parton said, look, I don't belong in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame no more than AC/DC does in the Country Music Hall of Fame. And in a way, she might be right, but like there's a lot of country folks that are in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, that's true. Johnny Cash was like a kind of a crossover, and there's some other artists like him that I think he's in both Hall of Fames, the Country Music Hall of Fame and the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. So
There's a classic picture of him giving the middle finger, which
yeah,
is that whole like anti-establishment thing that rockers are famous for, right? And
right.
so when I think about him being in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, I think of that picture. I'm like, yeah, absolutely. That and his music is really good. So,
Right.
um, who else is in this year? Do we want to kind of cover the nominees for this year?
Yeah, we can go over who the nominees are, and then we can get into some of the other genres that are also in.
Sure. Yeah, I think because there's a lot of these nominees are in different genres for sure. All right. So this year's nominees are, I'm just doing this based on the website, right? So
Right.
Eminem, Dolly Parton, Lionel Richie. Right there, those first three. Actually, let me do the four. Judas Priest. Four of those right out of the gate. Completely different styles of music.
Yeah. Yep. Well, definitely, Lionel Richie, you think of, easy listening, the Commodores, uh, walking on the ceiling party, but you
Yeah.
definitely I don't think of him as a rock and roll musician personally.
I didn't think of that either. And then I listened to a few of the Commodore songs over the last weekend, as we prepped for this episode. And I thought about, like, for me, rock and roll is drums, bass guitar, two guitarists, screaming vocalist. That was rock. That, to me, that's just rock. But I listen to the Commodores and I go, wait a second, drums, bass, some really good guitars, and a singer. Like, this is rock too. Like, so
Are the Commodores in? I haven't looked them up, but you got to think of, if Lionel Richie by himself is nominated, you got to think post Commodores, because it's based on his, if it's, like I said, if it's him by himself, it's his
yeah,
solo. So, and he kind of went easy listening. He was more of the easy listening person of the Commodores.
it's true.
So
Yeah, I agree.
also, mix into the pop genre.
So let's go through the rest of the nominees. These are just nominees. They're not inductees yet. They have to be voted on. We'll cover that in a minute. So Kate Bush, Beck, Rage Against the Machine. Sorry, not biased there at all. Dionne Warwick, A Tribe Called Quest, Duran Duran, Fela Kuti, MC5, another Detroit band, Devo, the New York Dolls, Pat Benatar, Carly Simon, and the Eurythmics. That rounds it all out there. Very diverse field, very diverse, I'd
For
say.
sure.
Yeah, from country to rap. In fact, I had this conversation with a friend of mine, Keith McKinnon, who runs a label and several talk shows about the difference between rap and hip hop. Still not clear to me, but he's schooling me on it. But it does have its roots in rock and roll and R&B and early blues. So I'm not surprised to see some of these artists making their way in here. I had to think long and hard about my views on what rock and roll was and the inclusion of these artists into this class.
Well, you mentioned rap and rap artists and hip hop artists in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. There was a little bit of controversy back in, I think, 2006 or 2007, where they have a voting time window, and once that window is shut, whoever's in is in. And the Dave Clark Five didn't make it in because they had a few votes that came in just shortly after the deadline. So the Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five actually was inducted in 2007, and they had talked about it and thought about putting Dave Clark Five in, but they said, we really can't go any longer without inducting a rap / hip hop artist. So, that's how the very first hip hop artist was inducted. And other ones, are like Run DMC, Beastie Boys, which, I could, that one is a borderline where they do play their own guitar and drums and bass, and at least early on. So I could see them going in. Public Enemy, NWA, Tupac, Notorious B.I.G., and Jay-Z are all the rap artists that are currently in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
So those are the nominees. Everyone's allowed to vote. There's a fan portion of this, right? And I'm gonna vote right now. And don't judge, but you can comment if you want. I'm gonna go ahead and do a screen share real quick. So Dave and I are gonna get super small on the screen. There it is. There's my vote right there. So I chose in no particular order, because you can just select them. The MC5. Got the jams.
One of the originators of punk music.
Punk. Pat Benatar. Judas Priest. Rage Against the Machine. And Duran Duran. Those are my picks for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I only get to choose 5. If I had 10, I would have chosen 10. But these are my 5. So I'm going to go ahead and hit submit. And it's probably going to ask me a bunch of other stuff. What is this? Rock your vote. Okay. Yeah. Count my vote, guys. Check your email. All right. I'll do that later.
Oh, there's current standings there too.
Oh,
I didn't.
hold on. Let's go back. But wait, yeah. There's more. Let's go back.
That's interesting. And
oh shit. What happened?
We missed it.
Oh no, hold on. Can I? Oh, did I just click?
There we go. Oh yeah, back up. Right there. See. Wow.
And they only choose 5, the top 5. So please don't be at the bottom. Please don't be at the bottom. Oh, you're not at the bottom. Okay, but still not going to get in. I'm looking for the MC5. I'm looking for the MC5.
That's a shame.
Yeah. Because we had agreed that if the MC5 got in, we were going to go to Cleveland for that. So, but there's still a chance for redemption. Get out there and vote. Vote for the MC5. And vote for 4 others.
I see Dolly Parton is currently in on the voting, and she said that she would not show up because she doesn't consider herself rock and roll. Interesting.
Everyone's got their price. I bet they get her to go. They could do a donation for a charity that she's behind. They'll figure out a way to get her to go for a good reason, for a good cause, right? Because she's going to be in there. Her artifacts will be there. Her name will be on some plaque somewhere. She's not avoiding it. She's in. So if you get in, Dolly, just show up, okay? Be a classy person like you always been, and just go. All right. Yeah,
and so if you want to make a difference, I'm looking at you. You are 22 subscribers. If you want somebody moved up into that top 5 that's not there, click on the link that we're going to provide and make sure you vote.
Vote the Rock. It used to be Rock the Vote, when MTV got behind it, but vote the Rock. That sounds stupid. We're gonna edit that out, right?
Sure.
That means it's not gonna get edited out. Damn it. All right. So one of the other things that Dave and I wanted to talk about was some injustices in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. We talked about some of the controversies, right? But the injustices, some things that just you assumed have already been inducted since 1983. And we basically came up with an agreed to list. This is we've never done this before. We've come up with a list together. The top 10, what did we say? Like the top 10 inductees that should just be put into the Hall of Fame, right? Our list that should just go in. If we had a magic, ticket that said you can pick 10 people, these are the 10 people we chose.
Hello, Cleveland! Hello, Cleveland!
Number 10, it's Ozzy Osbourne. As an individual, like not as a band or anything like that, just Ozzy Osbourne, right?
Yeah, he's already in with Black Sabbath. He had tons of hits post Black Sabbath. So he's our number 10.
Number 9 is Motorhead.
Yeah, so they're like, I'm not a huge, I wouldn't say I was a huge Motorhead fan, but there's no denying their influence on the industry and in metal music. There's bands that they've influenced that are in the Hall of Fame. If there's no Motorhead, there's probably no Metallica.
Right.
So
yeah, you're standing on the shoulder of giants. Like, don't the Giants get in? What's going on here?
number 8.
The Stray Cats.
So they have been snubbed since 2006. So they've been eligible, which that's another thing we didn't talk about. A band or a person is eligible 25 years after the release of their first album.
Stray Cats. You said snubbed since like when they were eligible, which is what?
2006. I believe they were eligible, or at least, yeah, I think that's when they were first eligible. They spearheaded the revival of rockabilly.
Yeah. I mean, here's a band in the 80s when everyone else is doing other stuff and heavy metal was starting to come up, and even into the 90s, they stuck to their style, which is the rockabilly style. And you couldn't have a better front man than Brian. He just like is an amazing guitarist. We've talked about him, enough. We've talked about his guitars and how we love Gretsch guitars, but like and that is synonymous with that sound, right? That big hollow body guitar, rockabilly
Right.
sound, which I just love. So
yeah, and there's a whole genre now of rockabilly style guitar or bands that are, because of the Stray Cats. I mean, it might have just kind of fell off in the distance and never returned, but he sure made it cool again. And they've sold nearly 10 million albums.
it's crazy. They should just be in. Yeah.
Yeah.
Number 7. Oi. Iron Maiden.
Yeah. So they were the pioneers of the new wave of British heavy metal. I mean, they're just, raw power, the voice of Bruce Dickinson, and was it Eddie the
Yeah, their character, the corpse,
yeah
mummy looking character. Yeah.
yeah
I saw them a few years ago at
Really?
on the range, and yeah, it was good. It was Iron Maiden, or am I thinking of? No, I'm pretty sure it was Iron Maiden. I wasn't drunk or high. I was adulting. But yeah, it's just like those bands put on. Not they just don't get on stage and play music. It's like a complete show, and you don't get a lot of that these days. Although there's a couple bands that kind of follow in that spirit, right? Number 6.
Hello, Cleveland!
I'll let you take this one.
All right. This is the Smashing Pumpkins. It's just the one thing that I got to say about the Pumpkins is they took a sound that the producer and the studio engineer said there's no effing way we can do this, and made it possible in the Siamese Dream album. Like, it was the sound that Billy Corgan wanted, was this super fuzzy. They've got a pedal called the Big Muff, and it's a special kind that he had in it with a certain kind of op amp, preamp, whatever, super technical stuff. But he said, this is the sound I want. And I'm sure sitting in a practice room or playing in a small hall, it sounded great. But when you put a microphone in front of a cabinet, the engineers are just like, how am I going to make this work? And they made it work. And it's tremendous. And that was their breakthrough album, was Siamese Dream, with a lot of hits. So yeah, they're due. They're definitely due.
Yeah, 3 platinum records, 1 diamond, which is, the one album, over 10 million copies sold. I mean, that's insane.
Was that Siamese Dream, or was that?
It's got to be Siamese Dream.
Yeah.
because remember what we said about the double albums?
Yeah, that
I
kills the
mean,
band.
puts them on the
They
downturn.
had to have known that, right? They had to have known we're gonna do a double album, and it was nice playing with you guys. Like we're gonna do this, and that album's really good.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Or double album. All right, number 5, Alice in Chains. Come
Yeah.
on,
So
come on.
the grunge movement, you have Nirvana that's in the hall, but you don't have any of the other bands. You don't have Alice in Chains, Soundgarden. Alice in Chains, they've been eligible for 7 years. They've sold over 30 million albums worldwide, 14 million, albums in the US alone. So had Lane Staley not passed away, and because they were still producing great music at the time, they would have continued, and they probably would have been a shoe in. They would probably be in all the way already, which kind of is an excuse on the Rock Hall's part. What they've done up to that point is well worthy of Rock Hall status.
All right, so number 4,
Hello, Cleveland!
In Excess.
Yeah, I would almost move them a little bit higher on this list personally, but we had to make some compromises.
Yeah.
You couldn't hop in somebody's car, go into a club anywhere in the 80s and not hear In Excess. They were like the soundtrack to the 80s and all the way up into the 90s. I mean, until Michael Hutchins passed away. I mean, there's another one. I mean, who knows how long they would have continued to make great music.
Yeah.
But one of the best frontman, maybe of all time, but for sure best frontman of the 80s of that genre of music. But
My favorite song from them, and this was a collaboration, I believe, was from the Lost Boys, the soundtrack.
Oh, A Cry Little Sister? No.
No,
It was
A Good Time Tonight.
yes.
Yeah,
That is good.
I love that song. I mean, they're just great artists. I love all their albums, but like that song to me is like, yeah, I liked it.
Yeah, my favorite is probably one of the more obscure one is Kissing Dirt. You'd know it if you heard it, but
Sure would. I just don't know that.
some people know it by the Falling Down the Mountain and they're Kissing Dirt. Yeah, anyways, that's one of my favorites.
Number 3, the Guess Who.
Who? You want me to guess?
Yeah, Guess Who? Guess who, Dave? Guess who?
I don't know.
It's the Canadian band called the Guess Who.
Okay.
Such famous songs like American Woman, which was redone by Lenny Kravitz, and I don't like that song. I don't like that version of it.
Yeah. But
yeah, anyway.
lot of great songs. No Sugar Tonight. That was one of my favorites. I remember listening to their record, the great Guess Who's Greatest Hits, up in my bedroom, listening to those songs. New Mother Nature, These Eyes. Yeah. My uncle's band that was one of the songs that they used to cover. So when we had house parties and whatnot, they would always do These Eyes. And at that point, I thought my uncle was a rock star and he wrote the song, but I was young. But yeah, they were the first Canadian group to have a #1 hit in the United States.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, it's just great music. Like you said, like that, it's like that it could be a perfect album. Their greatest hits could be a perfect album. You just sit it's in the background and you're like, oh yeah, I remember that song. First time I heard it, I was doing this, so
Yeah.
let's get into the #1 and #2, and these are in a special category for us, right? We talked about this, like these are the foundational, like no way they're not in, really. And Dave did all the homework on these folks, the next 2, and I was just like, well, they got to go to the top. They got to be at the top, and we agreed on this too. So #2, again, these are not in particular order, but #2 is Big Mama Thornton.
Yeah, so she's probably, everyone's like going, who? But she was like pre-rock and roll. She influenced a lot of people like Elvis and Janis Joplin, and she was the first person to record the song Hound Dog. And there's a version of it out on YouTube, and I highly suggest go checking it out. But she recorded Hound Dog before Elvis ever heard it. So definitely a big influence on the industry. She wrote Ball and Chain, which later became Janis Joplin's one of her signature songs. So right there, I mean, she's got a lot of credits to her name that people just don't know who she is. And, they really should.
Number one.
Dramatic pause.
Number one is Dick Dale. And Dick Dale.
This is one of those you're like, are you sure? So I had to check like multiple websites and then, go to the Rock Hall's official website and just see if there was something didn't seem right. I mean, he's been snubbed for 35 years. Bullshit! He is the king of surf guitar. I mean, there is no surf guitar without him. He's probably one of the most influential guitar players of all time. I mean, Jimi Hendrix, Pete Townsend, like Eddie Van Halen's style. He basically copied the super fast playing of Dick Dale and like Misery Lou and that type of the stuff. Brian May, just so many songs and so many guitar players that were influenced by him. Let's see, I've got.
And then the hardware side of it, right? His influence on hardware.
Oh, yeah. So yeah, he used to use these 10-watt amps on stage, and he used to crank them up and just destroy these amps, and he kept blowing them one after another. So he went to Leo Fender, and they got together and helped him. They developed the very first 85-watt transformer, which peaked at 100 watts, which became the Showman amp. I mean, a staple of Fender's amp, arsenal. And and that even wasn't enough. He started blowing those things up because he had run them through 15-watt speakers, and so they built another one which peaked at 180 watts. So 180 watts on stage, which became the dual Showman. So yeah, he was definitely an innovator.
It's 180 watts of tube power. Like a lot of folks, when they hear 100 watts, they're like, I got 100 watts in my subwoofer in my car. It's a totally different sound. This is a 60-watt tube head, and I can't take it up past 1, and it goes to 10. And I can't get it past 1 without it just starting to have my ears ringing after about 10 minutes. So like, this is how loud this is. We're talking over 140 decibels loud.
Yeah, that's I can't imagine being in a room with something that's 180 watts. And he was left-handed, but unlike Jimi Hendrix, where Jimi Hendrix turned the guitar upside down and restrung it like a normal 6-string would, he turned it upside down and left it strung the way a right-hand guitar is upside down, and he played it upside down. He played the chords. He figured out his own way to play chords. Just the talent and the ability to do that. And he was the first to use reverb. I don't know if you knew that.
No.
He wanted reverb to make his voice sound better, and then he decided to plug his Stratocaster into it, and it gave it a real wet, juicy sound. And from that point forward, reverb was synonymous with surf music. So yeah. And also, some people even consider him like the grandfather of heavy metal, just because of how fast and his stage presence and just how aggressive he was, definitely influenced that type of music. So
he's the first one to use reverb. Like
yeah.
now amps come with like the combo amps where you get the speakers and the amp in one. They come with a little reverb coil and a reverb dial. And yeah, I mean, I've got a reverb pedal. Everyone's got to have reverb. Makes you sound better.
And this will make you really cringe. He played 15s strings. That's
like
the gauge.
wire.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah. And he would burn through them because he used such a heavy pick. He played 15s. He had his Stratocaster rewired to where it only had a volume and a bypass switch to go between I think his pickups. I remember reading something about that. I'd have to look into it, but
so like for the average citizen that doesn't play a guitar, 15s is it's the gauge of the smallest string on the guitar, because they go from, there's 6 of them, large to smallest, and the smallest is 15. Typical guitarists will use 9s or 10s, and this is 15, which is just like I said, it's like piano wire compared to most guitarists.
Yeah, and people used to be in awe of Stevie Ray Vaughan because he used 12s and for that tone. And how can you bend 12s? But man, can you imagine? I don't think I could fret a 15. I mean,
I got blisters on my
like
fingers.
the number 1 E string alone would be deep sea underwater cable.
I don't know what he did to upset the politics of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, but him not being in there is just, it almost delegitimizes the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, in my opinion. I have no explanation why he's not.
Bullshit.
So
Well, maybe this video here will be the watershed moment for us, and we will start a movement and get this 10 in next year.
yeah, you can start petitions, because there were bands that were never on the ballot until the public outcry, created a spot for them. One of the most notable one is Rush. They were snubbed forever until there was enough people write-ins and doing online petitions where the Rock Hall said, yeah, we got to right this wrong. So they need to right this wrong with Dick Dale.
Yeah. We had some honorable mentions. So the outcome of this top 10 list, or just 10, we had some honorable mentions. Dave, did you want to go through them?
But wait, there's more.
Just naming them.
Yeah. You want to start? I got
yeah, sure. So even though they're actually on the list this year for nominations, Judas Priest.
Yeah. I don't think, based on the results so far, they're not in. Well, another one we mentioned, Stone Temple Pilots. I mean,
come on. Living Color. I mean, double platinum for their breakthrough album Vivid, which opened up a lot of eyes to the difference in rock for certain folks. Like that, I know for us it was like the first African-American all-black rock band that you never saw that, right? And so we're just like, wow, and they're freaking awesome too. So yeah, Living Color. And there was some controversy around their name too. I think they sued the TV show In Living Color because they were originally called Living Color. So that's how they kind of hopped up on the scene, was through that, I think. But yeah, Living Color. All right, what else do we have?
Megadeth.
Symphony of Destruction. Yes. Ronnie James Dio. This next one was kind of interesting. Motley Crue. And we talked a little bit about this and their kind of cohort of bands like them.
Yeah, not very many hair bands. I would consider them a hair band personally. Yeah. Closest one being in is Guns N' Roses. They're in, but they were like the anti-hair band. Yeah, basically.
They were like the grungy hair band.
Yeah. But yeah, so Motley Crue, Poison, Cinderella, all that whole genre. There's nobody in.
And the last one we had on here was Link Ray.
And I think he should just get moved up to automatically put in. He's famous for the song Rumble, which was banned from I think, I don't know if it was in England or both England and in the United States for a while. They banned it because of the fighting connotation.
Too many
Rumble.
kids are fighting every time that song comes on. They're fighting in the parking lot. I mean, I like Rage Against the Machine song comes on. We're in a mosh pit. There's like 50 of us, and we're not trying to kill each other. We're just dancing, right? This song was just more like, "Are you talking to me? Are you looking at me?"
Yeah.
So that was our show for today. All about Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, the nominees, the process, the inductees, and people we thought should be in automatically anyways.
Yeah. Let us know. Do you think rap artists should be in the Hall of Fame? Do you think country artists should be in the Hall of Fame?
Do you think country rappers should be in the Hall of Fame?
Or rapping countries?
Yeah. We'll put the links to some of the stuff out there, like voting, how to vote. The video I talked about at the beginning about the masterclass with Taylor Hawkins. We'll put that in the links as well. So thanks for watching.
Yeah, we'd appreciate if you subscribed, liked, and shared our videos. And we'll see you next time on
Dude, check this out.
Check this out. Sweet.
I don't know. Do you think we got it done in under? I mean, we didn't start till like 30 minutes into our chat. So did we go another hour again? We can't do anything under 50 minutes, man.
I'll be able to edit out some of my rambling. I
think I did some too. So like
I bet check it. It's around 45 or under.
Okay. All right. Well, let me stop recording. So you got less to kind of munge through here. Oh, dude, I forgot to record it.
I see it up there.
Ah, crap. I was trying to do an April Fool's joke. And we're going to have a top 10 in here. But first, talk about another untimely loss of another amazing artist.
Are you rolling? Am I missing the show?
Oh, no, just Dave, welcome to the show. I already did the segue, the top 10. Just close it out, man. Just close it out. There we go.
Blah, blah, blah. Blah, 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 blah. Blah, 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 blah. Blah 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 Blah, 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 blah. Blah, blah, blah. Blah, 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 blah. Blah, 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 blah. Blah, blah. Blah, 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 blah. Blah, 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 blah. Blah, 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 blah. Blah, 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 blah. Blah, 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 blah. Blah, 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 blah. Blah. Blah, 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 blah. Blah, blah, blah. Blah, blah, blah. Blah. Blah, blah. 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 Blah, 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 blah. Blah, la, 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 la. Blah, la, 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 la. Blah, la. Blah. Blah. Blah, blah. Blah, 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 blah. Blah, blah, blah. Blah, 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 blah. Blah, blah. Blah, blah. Blah, 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 blah. Blah, 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 blah. Blah, blah, blah. Blah, blah. Blah, blah, blah.